To say this episode of Boruto made me emotional would be an understatement.
I cried like a 10-year-old girl.
Powerful Nerdcast assemble! Stay dandy, baby. Greetings, my ninja pals, and welcome to another review of Boruto Naruto Next Generations, a very special episode, an episode which will go down in infamy. I was not emotionally prepared for this episode. I thought that they were going to drag it out a little bit more and save one of these big major events for the next episode, but no, they're managing to just rip right through all of this manga material to the point where I believe we're only about 8 chapters away from completely catching up with the Boruto manga, and that leaves us with a lot of interesting possibilities for the future. But let's talk about the present, this episode right here. And I'm going to go ahead and just give a massive spoiler warning. If you have not checked out this episode, please go watch it, then come back to this video so we can talk about it, because this episode features probably one of the most major moments in Naruto history. That's right. But before we get to that, I would like to ask all of you, if you're not subscribed to the channel, please go ahead and do that. If you are subscribed, make sure to hit that bell notification icon. It'll let you know when all my videos are released. And of course, if you are liking these videos, obliterate that like button. Just smash the hell out of it. If you want to go the extra mile in supporting the channel, please consider checking out my Patreon. You can make a small donation. It would be a great way of helping to support this channel, and I would love to add your name to this list of amazing people that you see on screen. They are basically the producers of my channel, Ace Guru. But let's go ahead and jump into this episode. There's a lot to unpack with this one. There are 3 major events which take place in this episode, and I don't want to jump into the big emotional part quite yet. We're going to save that for the end. First, we're going to talk about the first major part of the episode, the actual defeat of Ishiki Otsutsuki. Yes, despite his godlike status, being able to take down both Naruto and Sasuke, even with Naruto using his Baryon mode, Ishiki is officially defeated in this episode by one of the most classic techniques of the entire franchise, and it's used by Kawaki, which I do believe is perfect poetic justice. So essentially, Ishiki has lost his shit. He realizes he only has a small amount of time to implant a karma into Kawaki, and that's his #1 mission, and he tries to do this, with Kawaki actually fighting back using some fire-style techniques. I did love the little detail of the fact that he's using the detached arm to actually deploy these jutsu. That's a nice little fun detail. Ishiki ends up catching up to Kawaki, choking him out Mr. X style as he prepares to implant his karma, which looks like it actually works. You can actually see the karma going up his arm as if it's officially been implanted, and for him, this is perfect timing as he slowly starts to crumble away until he realizes that the karma mark on Kawaki's arm slowly starts to dissipate and disappear. It's gone, it's not working, and the big reveal here is that Kawaki has actually utilized the Shadow Clone Jutsu, the signature technique of Naruto, which, like I said earlier, perfect poetic justice. Kawaki was able to take out this enemy with what is effectively Naruto's most standard ability, and only at the most standard level. He can only create one clone, and when you try to implant a karma on a clone, it just doesn't work. Kawaki reveals that he was hiding in the shadows. He appears before Ishiki before jumping on top of him and dusting him like frickin' Thanos. And thus, that's the end of Ishiki. That's how he gets defeated. Not in some big ultimate technique or anything, but by someone using the most rudimentary of ninja skills, something that we've literally seen since episode 1 of the original series. It is just the perfect middle finger to Ishiki. It also firmly establishes that Kawaki has built such a strong relationship with Naruto. He quite literally sees him as something of a father figure at this point. This is a huge moment for Kawaki, showing that he can allow people into his lives and that they can continue to influence him in terms of his growth and where he's going in the future. Essentially, Kawaki's heart grew 2 sizes that day. But before you can even come to grips with this, before you can relax and realize that this dangerous situation is over, suddenly Momoshiki manifests within Boruto's body and decides to go on the attack, the perfect opportunity to catch them off guard. And what's the first thing he does? He plunges a kunai directly into Sasuke's eye socket, effectively effectively taking out his most powerful ability, the Rinnegan Eye. No more space-time jutsu, no more bullshitting opponents. Sasuke has just been severely crippled by Boroshiki. So this leads to the next part of the episode, which ends up being kind of like a surprise battle. A very short one of watching Boruto battle against Kawaki. Of course, Momoshiki is in full control at this moment. We also get to learn that while Kawaki no longer does have a karma inside of his body, the karma that was there previously still went through the whole oat-susification process, and he's about 80% there. So apparently, that's just enough chakra to work as a sacrifice to act as fertilizer for the freaking Ten Tails, for the Divine Tree, so that Boroshiki can have some delicious chakra fruit. However, while Momoshiki is taking over Boruto's body, he cannot expend a lot of chakra, because if he does this, eventually Boruto will be able to take his body back and take full control. That's why he's not trying to use his karma to absorb a lot of techniques from either Sasuke or even from Kawaki. And this is actually how Kawaki ends up defeating him, by essentially trying to ignite himself with some sort of fire-style technique. And of course, Boroshiki doesn't want his sacrifice to die right here, so he is forced to use the karma ability, which depletes a lot of his chakra, allowing Boruto to come back and take control. I also just want to mention that during all of these events, man, Sasuke has just had the worst fucking day ever. I mean, it's not enough that he got his ass handed to him by Ishiki, but he lost an eye in the process. He tries to help out Kawaki only to take a vanishing Rasengan to the chest, which absolutely wrecks his world. Sasuke's the mayor of Strugglesville in this episode. It's also really crazy that when Boruto takes over, he actually manages to bring himself back by quite literally ripping that weird horn off of his head, the one that grows when Momoshiki takes control. And maybe it's just me, but man, that's gotta hurt like hell. I mean, I understand that it sort of like recedes back into him and it's really just a part of Momoshiki, but that'd be like literally ripping a chunk of your head off. So Boruto returns, and again, things seem kind of hunky-dory, except when Sasuke realizes that Naruto is starting to pass out, and that's when we're reminded, oh yeah, he uses that life-threatening technique that could potentially kill him. And that's when we get what is arguably one of the biggest moments of this entire episode, nay, of the entire franchise. They build this moment up as if it's like Naruto and Kurama's final interaction with one another, and it is, but they also make it seem at first like they're both going to die here. That is until Kurama makes it clear that this Baryon mode technique was actually not going to kill both of them, but simply just Kurama. He didn't lie to Naruto about this technique. He didn't sugarcoat anything. He just worded it in a way so that if Naruto actually learned that Kurama was going to die in the process, he probably wouldn't have used the Baryon mode. But by telling it this way and showing that Naruto has such strong conviction in wanting to protect people and giving up his own life, he decided to go along with the technique. If he knew that Kurama was going to die in the process, he probably would not have done this. Kurama knows this, and that's because Kurama knows Naruto best. That's what's kind of special about this episode. It reminds you that Kurama has been with Naruto since the beginning, since he was a newborn. Naruto's entire backstory revolves around the fact that he was a very lonely child who was ostracized by society. They casted him away for essentially being what they considered a demonic child because he had a monster inside of him. They thought he literally was the nine-tailed fox, a giant monster which does nothing but destroy anything. But the entire Naruto Shippuden anime series did a great job of showing that Kurama is more than just that. He's a living thing with thoughts, hopes, and dreams of just wanting to be a real thing that lives in the world, has freedom, and isn't looked at as some sort of weird, creepy monster that simply has to be destroyed or sealed away. The ups through the downs, through Naruto's darkest times, Kurama was always with him, and watching the growth of those two characters to eventually grow a mutual respect for one another has been one of the best parts of the entire franchise, and that's what leads to this incredible death scene. Kurama actually dies in this episode. We're not talking like he's gonna be reincarnated at some point. No, the tailed beasts themselves are literal physical manifestations of chakra itself. But by using the Baryon mode, it quite literally destroys the physical form of Kurama, which leads to a number of questions. Will he be able to be reincarnated? Will he come back as just himself? Will he come back with Naruto? Will he somehow be implanted in someone new and become a brand new Jinchuriki? Could someone be another Jinchuriki of Kurama in the future? Will we ever see Kurama again? That's the biggest question of this episode, and it's something that manga readers have been asking, and now the anime people can finally join in on the conversation. The good news is, the final goodbyes between Kurama and Naruto are handled perfectly, and so much more emotional in the manga version, which maybe it's just the fact that it's manga, but it seems like it goes by really fast. Like, you read that whole final moment between Naruto and Kurama, and it's over in an instant. Here, they managed to take their time, they use some good emotional music, great use of color. Naruto's voice actor does a great job in realizing that he's about to lose someone very important to him, arguably one of the most important characters in the entire series. There have been a lot of character deaths in Naruto, but I'd go as far as to say, and this might be stretching it a bit, this is the most important death in the entire series. I mean, really think about it. Think about the history of the series and its main character. This is a really big moment, and they managed to do it in the most classy way possible. They end with a massive montage of some of the biggest moments between Naruto and Kurama during the credits, and it all ends with Kurama saying goodbye and showing his respect to Naruto. The emotional weight and toll of Kurama dying is perfectly balanced out in that final scene of Boruto embracing his father and being so thankful for him being alive. You can see in that moment that Naruto sort of accepts the death of Kurama in that instant, but also realizes yet again that he still has people to protect, people that he cares about. Again, it might seem cheesy, it might seem corny, but that's what Naruto's character is all about. And that's what this entire episode totally exemplified perfectly. So what's the rundown on this episode of Boruto Naruto Next Generations? This is a once-in-a-lifetime type of episode. It's one of those episodes that you kind of just have to watch, just for the sheer weight of everything that happens in it. I mean, we have the defeat of a major villain, we have the injuring of a major character and their abilities, and then we have the death of arguably one of the most important characters in the entire series. There are massive waves going on in this episode, and it's going to have a huge effect on the future of the franchise, and I really think this is one of those anime episodes which blew the manga version out of the water in terms of animation, artwork, voice acting. The death of Kurama, like I said, when I read it in the manga, I accepted it, but I didn't like really feel it. Like, I was like, oh, that kind of sucks, Kurama's gone. In this episode, I actually found myself welling up with tears, having to pause the episode and just kind of compose myself. They did a great job with Kurama's send-off in this episode, and I think those final moments where both of them are fist-bumping each other was nothing short of legendary. It sent a chill down my spine, and it made me reflect on these characters that I have been watching and reading for years. It shows that despite the fact that Kurama is a giant fox monster, I legitimately care about him and his plight and the interactions that he's had with other characters, how he's changed their lives, how they've changed his. It's amazing that this series made me care about what is effectively a giant kaiju monster. I've no doubt in my mind that Naruto is still a top-tier character in the series. He's learned way too many other techniques which will allow him to be proficient in battle, but this is sort of like that passing of the torch moment. This is the moment of the series where things are now going to have to rely on the next generation of characters, because you have Naruto who's lost Kurama, you have Sasuke who's losing one of his eyes, and now it's the next generation's turn. They're going to have to step up and now truly become the main characters of the series. And in many ways, that's freeing, because I love Naruto and Sasuke. They're one of the best characters of the entire franchise, arguably the most popular, considering they're basically the main characters. But this is the Boruto anime, this is the Boruto manga, and now that they've been relegated to losing some of their most strongest powers, this is the perfect opportunity to build on all of these new characters and to see where they're going to go and how they're going to change the future of the franchise. So I cannot wait to see where all of that is going, but overall this episode right here, man, it just hit me like a ton of freaking bricks. The death of Kurama, I think, was handled so well in the anime version, and it made me absolutely love this episode. I mean, Ishiki's defeat was also amazing. It's just, every part of this episode was so emotionally crazy in different ways. 3 massive events condensed into one single episode, which I thought was handled really well, with good animation, fantastic artwork, and that final moment between Naruto and Kurama just worked. It worked so well. So, I loved this episode. But I really want to hear from you guys. Like, if I could give this one a score, you know it's a 5 out of 5 for me. This is a wholly important episode of the franchise. You gotta check it out. But what about you guys? How did you feel about this episode, the death of Ishiki? Was it too sudden? What about Boroshiki returning and injuring Sasuke? Will he somehow be able to get his eye back in some way, or is he basically just going full-on eye patch pirate mode? And what did you feel about the death of Kurama? Did it hit you really hard? Did it make you reflect on the character? Did it make you sad? Did you cry? Did you feel nothing at all? Tell me what you thought about this episode in general and what you hope to see from the future of Boruto as we move forward, because a lot of crazy things are about to happen considering we're getting so close to the manga version. It's inevitable we're about to go into some filler territory. But let's talk all about that this episode. Comment section below. Thank you guys so much for watching this review. I really appreciate it. I'll see you all next time, and as always, stay dandy, baby.